Hello, I'm Dan Nornberg, and today I'm going to talk about the 9 markers or the 9 characteristics of an ownership culture. But before I do, I'd like to come back to a statement that I've been hearing a lot in executive teams, and I shared this statement in my November issue of News to Use. I need to delegate more ownership. What's wrong with this statement? Now, there's certainly nothing wrong with wanting to create more ownership in your organization, because if you have a culture in your company of ownership, people are going to express higher levels of engagement. That higher level of engagement, they're going to be much more satisfied, and they're going to produce much higher business impact for the overall organization. But what's important to remember is that we cannot delegate ownership. That shouldn't mean that you shouldn't try to get it, but let's just take a look at this in my second slide. I'd like to briefly explain the 3 levels of engagement and the corresponding levels of business impact. Our first level of the organization of engagement is responsibility. It's really important that everybody in a company understands what's expected of me, what's my role, what am I responsible for. Responsibility can also be collective, right? It's something that can be shared, like in a manufacturing plant. You can have a number of people who feel responsible for safety, for example. Our second level of engagement, which also drives the next level of business impact, is accountability. Accountability is similar to responsibility because we can delegate both of these. I can hold people accountable. I can hold people responsible. But the difference between accountability and responsibility is this belongs to one person. Such as a petty cash box in an office, for example. You don't have 6 people that have a key to the petty cash, because if money were missing at the end of the month, you wouldn't know who to hold accountable. But that green space beyond responsibility, beyond accountability, where we create the highest levels of engagement, which is really important in today's business, and drives the highest level of business impact, is ownership. But let's not be mistaken. Ownership is not something that we can delegate. Ownership is something that we can invite people to participate in when there are certain characteristics or marker presence in a culture, because this is something that I choose to do. I can be ordered or asked or delegated accountability and responsibility, but not ownership. So let's now look at the 9 markers or 9 characteristics, or what needs to be present to draw people into this ownership space. So I've created an acronym with the word ownership to help you be able to carry this, to transport these characteristics back into your business. So first and foremost, an ownership culture is characterized by it's outcome driven, meaning that people aren't talking about just what they're doing, their activities, but they're talking more about what they've accomplished, what's been achieved individually, in a team, in a project, in an organization. Number 2, why is clear and present. This means that the purpose and the meaning of our work is very, very clear. I feel I'm contributing something to more than myself. So this is very, very important. Number 3, when your boss asks you to do something, do you have the ability, and do you often or at times exercise and say, no, I can't do that, or no, I don't see that fits into our strategic plan, or I have a completely full agenda, what can we negotiate off? So an ownership culture also provides that negotiations take place and they're part of agreements. If you don't feel you have any ability to negotiate or discuss the things that cascade down through the organizations, you're unlikely to create an ownership culture. An ownership culture is comprised of people that are emotionally present and engaging. So this is where we feel the passion and conviction of what people do. It's more than just an intellectual and a rational exercise. Our next marker of an ownership culture is that there are high degrees of recognition and reward throughout the ownership space. The ownership space, the ownership culture, is also one that is characterized by what I call as a shift orientation. So people in an ownership culture who feel a high level of ownership aren't satisfied with the status quo. They really want to drive business transformation. They want to drive meaningful change in the organization because they know that today's performance is probably not going to be distinct at some point in the future. An ownership culture has what I call an honor the cause spirit. The honor the cause spirit prevails, meaning that I'm aware of the overall objectives, the vision, the mission, the strategic priorities of the business. If I'm a senior executive and I feel like I'm part of an ownership culture, it could be that there's times where I make a decision which might not be favorable for my part of the business, but it's extremely helpful for the overall company. So I'm willing to make some sacrifices for the overall cause of the business. An ownership culture has high degrees of involvement. This means that decisions aren't only simply located in the executive team, but decisions and actions and the ability to use resources to make decisions take place throughout the organization. This involvement at different levels of the organization breeds high levels of initiative. People take initiative and are willing to take chances. And the ninth characteristic or marker of an ownership culture is that the conversations are very promise-driven. Yeah? People make personal promises, team makes promises and commitments about what you can expect from them. So these are the 9 markers, and you can ask yourself, in our organization, to what degree are these characteristics or markers present? Okay? While you can't delegate ownership, what you can do as a senior leadership team is you can encourage people to become more ownership driven by creating the conditions in which they want to invest more of their effort. And this discretionary effort creates high levels of engagement and also business results. I'm Dan Nornberg, and if you should have any questions about how you can create a stronger ownership culture in your organization, I'd be very happy to talk to you. Thank you for listening.